Story 1. My dad died largely due to binge drinking throughout his entire life and not taking care of himself. I realized I was heading down the same path and decided I didn't want to continue that way. 14 months alcohol-free right now. Thank you all for your kind comments, stories, and encouragement. I needed this today.
What really made it click was noticing how small my world had become. Every plan revolved around drinking. Every emotion, stress, boredom, even happiness felt like it needed alcohol attached to it. And I started to feel disconnected from myself, like I was slowly disappearing.
My father died alone and scared after he decided to go kayaking in February on the Mississippi late at night without telling anyone. He may well have been sober at the time, but the alcohol had seriously impacted his brain to the point of no return. Immediately after that happened, my drinking ramped up to the point where I wasn't really working and I could feel myself heading for the same road. He died 10 years ago. I've been sober just over 3 years now, and I've come a long way in terms of forgiving him for the trauma my brothers and I endured throughout our childhood due to his drinking. I'm having my first child this March, and I'm so excited to be a father. I never had a good example of what to do, but I had a great example of things not to do as a dad.
Same here. I tried this before around 2023, where I went for over a year. Then I fell back into it. I spent 3 months in Italy. It was a blur, and I don't even remember the phones I have today. In 2025, with the help of therapy, I decided one day it was time to just stop. I've since been really addressing the issues and trying to get a better handle on myself at 53. As an aging Gen X techie, I can honestly see why so many started groups during conferences to break the cycle. Anyway, I recommend that those who can afford the support get it while transitioning. Doing this the first time was a mess and really didn't get to the underlying issues like the second time did for me. For anyone wanting to make that journey, please speak with a doctor or a mental health professional. Those first 2 weeks are going to be something, but I assure you they get better and the symptoms go away.
Story 2. I stopped drinking in social situations and started drinking by myself to black out. I would get a pint of McCormick vodka, chug it while holding my breath, and then slam down a soda or juice. Tricked my body into not tasting the vodka. I would black out pretty quickly. Rinse and repeat. My friends told me the way I drank was scary. My best friend convinced me to go to rehab, so I finally did. I'm almost 4 years alcohol-free now.
Yeah, she's the best. She was also doing the same thing, unfortunately. And we drank and used together. So after I did my 30 days, I convinced her to go into the same place. She did. She'll have her 4 years soon too, nearly exactly 30 days after me.
Thank you very much. I have depression and borderline personality disorder. Then I developed a healthy dose of post-traumatic stress disorder from some ridiculously and uniquely terrifying events. Specifically, an FBI raid for suspected child pornography, which triggered a 6-week investigation of everything I own. Clearly, I was innocent and they agreed because I'm here and not serving 30 to 40 mandatory years in a federal prison. Then, 3 months later, my car mysteriously exploded and I got set on fire a little. They never discovered what happened, but I nearly died. After that, I just stopped wanting to be awake or thinking anymore. I wanted to go out as quickly as possible. It was a slow suicide. That's the truth.
Vodka is really where it gets dangerous. It's easy-ish to drink on its own, especially ice cold, but chased with a sweet beverage, you don't feel a thing besides the warmth in your belly. For me, it was a bottle of vodka in the garage and a soda or a sports drink at all times. I'd run out there, big swig of vodka, big swig of soda or juice, rinse and repeat until very drunk. Every single night.
Story 3. My father was a heavy drinker. Nothing made him interested in quitting, including losing his family and his job. He spoke 3 languages: English, French, and Spanish. One day, he woke up and the Spanish was gone. It scared the hell out of him, and he finally quit the same day. He was 57. 6 months after quitting, all of the Spanish gradually returned. He's been sober for over 30 years now.
Thoughtful. This is a serious thread, so I should not joke. But this reminds me of, but Marge, every time I learn something new, I forget something I already know. Remember that time I forgot how to drive? Chuckles. That was because you were drunk, Homer.
Alcoholic dementia is a very real thing. We just started seeing it in my dad at age 62. His own dad died alone, a blabbering drunk mess after drowning in his own vomit at 57. That and some other health events made my dad drastically reduce his drinking from all evening every evening to just a couple of drinks on Friday and Saturday. After about 6 months, he is gradually becoming less concerning in terms of mental acuity.
Wow. I'd almost find this hard to believe if something on a smaller scale hadn't happened to me. I woke up after a weekend of heavy drinking and couldn't unlock my phone. It was back when the unlock was a swiping pattern. I thought maybe I would remember by the end of the day after the fog and haze of the hangover faded. Eventually, I felt clear-headed, but I never remembered the pattern ever again. It felt like that brain cell was just destroyed and the memory gone. It brought home that I'm actually damaging my body in ways that may not be reparable. Who knows the state of my liver and what irreversible damage I've done to it over the years.
Story 4. My kid, who was 4 at the time, found me blacked out. He shook me, terrified, thinking I was hurt. His scared tears were the click. Sober 5 years. He hugs me tighter now and says, "I'm glad you're awake every day, worth every tough moment."
Same. My 10-year-old daughter found me and thought I was dead. I never want to see that look in her eyes again, and the only way to do that is to never drink again. My love for her outweighs my love for alcohol. I hope you find what you're searching for.
Kids will do it every time. The reason I consented to having my skull cut open and a piece of my brain removed was because I didn't want my kids to see me having seizures anymore. But this is your comment. Sorry to climb on.
Good job, man. Keep it up.
You have given your child the invaluable gift of your presence. My dad was a pill popper who did all he could not to be awake or conscious for our entire childhoods. Yes, he had his own trauma to grapple with, but he set my sister and me on a course of constantly seeking approval from men.
Story 5. I was going to lose my family and likely die sooner rather than later. 2 years sober next week.
Congratulations. Congratulations also from my parents, who have both been sober for over 30 years. They tell me all the time how much better their lives have been for it. Encouraging, keep up the good work.
I am. My kids and my wife deserve a sober and present father. I don't regret giving that up at all.
I really loved my Alcoholics Anonymous group and the experience. They not only kept me sober, they really changed how I look at life and how I feel about life. It's worth checking out if you're in a large metro area.
Story 6. There wasn't one moment. It was going to therapy and healing instead of drinking to suppress.
This is very true. People like to talk about a rock bottom, but anyone who's struggled with addiction and finally found a way to stay sober has had 100 rock bottoms. Pissing the bed is a rock bottom. Losing your job for being drunk at work is a rock bottom. Your wife and friends leaving you is a rock bottom. Ending up in rehab or jail is a rock bottom.
I was like that with the whole idea that talking about it isn't going to make me feel better, or it's just going to go away. It's not going to work for me. But just letting it out to an unbiased ear and hearing it out loud helped me let go. Slowly but surely, it felt like the chains weren't as firm as they seemed. I used to heavily drink because I needed to escape my mind. My burdens, anxiety, and fears were too much to handle, and alcohol was the easiest substance to get a hold of and abuse. I had undiagnosed ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, as well, so Adderall helped me focus and clear my mind. Just talking about how I felt helped me free myself from the things I can't control and leave them in the past. The medication helped me focus on things I can control, like my physical health and mental well-being. I started getting serious about working out, stress management, diet and sleep, and my body is healing now. I'm seeing the shift in a positive direction. I never thought I could change, but now I'm making it happen. My therapist believes in me, but the most important thing is I believe in myself. I hit bumps along the way, but so does everyone else. The important thing is I don't linger on them. I get up and move forward because I wasted too much precious time staying in the past.
I'm not the person you asked, but therapy changed my life. specifically cognitive behavioral therapy, where you think about the things you do. So let's break it down. No need to get into what was wrong. The point is that talking about it to a neutral, non-judgmental adult who had no expectations of me was transformative. It goes from talking about what's going on in your life, stressors, to talking about what you're doing in response, behaviors. And then the next thing you know, you can see pretty clearly why you've been doing the things you do, motivations. Reflective. For me, just that self-awareness made every difference, even if I didn't immediately change. Example, I ate my feelings. Food, not alcohol, was my coping mechanism. So in therapy, I talked about my relationship to food and how eating makes me feel something other than the discomfort of feeling blank, whatever that emotion is. So eventually, because I'm consciously thinking about what I'm feeling and what I'm doing about it, there comes a point when I'm thinking, I should eat something. And then the next thought is, wait, am I hungry or am I bored? Am I bored or am I sad? Oh, I'm sad. Okay, how sad? The worst ever? No, not that bad, but pretty mopey and anxious. So what makes me feel better besides food? Bhangra music. Cognitive behavioral therapy teaches you real skills to assess what you're feeling and how you're behaving, and then make a conscious choice without judgment. I'm well over the trauma that got me into therapy, but I absolutely never want to give it up. Seeing a therapist is like brushing your teeth. It's a kind of maintenance and hygiene that prevents bigger problems later.
Story 7. I stopped as a goof for a New Year's resolution, just to see how long I'd last. And I haven't had a drink since January 1st, 2021. I thought I'd be back to drinking within a few weeks, and here I am in 2026, completely dry.
I took a 30-day break in April 2023, and it's never sounded appealing since.
Congratulations. Congratulations also from my parents, who have both been sober for over 30 years. They tell me all the time how much better their lives have been for it. Keep up the good work.
Story 8. It was not fun anymore and way too time-consuming. Every plan I made usually revolved around access to alcohol. I was just done. Luckily, I found access to the right tools and community at the right time.
That was a contributing factor to my friend, and I not being friends with this married couple that we'd been friends with for many years. That's all that mattered. And to be clear, I was no sober Sam. But we don't need to pregame a damn movie.
This was exactly it for me with smoking. I couldn't do anything for longer than 2 hours without a cigarette. All my work breaks were outside. I didn't do the errands or small things that make life more fluid if it took me away from smoking. I didn't go to places where I'd be stuck without cigarettes. In cars, I couldn't smoke. I didn't want to travel on planes. Someone finally said a famous line about smoking. It was like wearing your shoes way too tight all day long, just so you could loosen them every 2 hours to feel that relief. And it clicked. My entire life was worse because of smoking. Everything. Just to get this stress relief of having a worse life. After quitting smoking, getting over drinking came naturally to keep that momentum.
I found a book called This Naked Mind by Annie Grace. I read it and took the exercises within it seriously. There's also an online community she started called The Alcohol Experiment. The people there were wonderful and helped me out tremendously. I wish the best for your son in his journey.
Story 9. I'm a 37-year-old man. I unironically said out loud, I can quit anytime I want. And then it all clicked. My aunt also said that a few decades ago. She's about to lose her foot. Grandfather on dad's side would get blasted every day until one day he decided to taste a 12-gauge instead. Dad is disabled, but he's addicted to Percocet and won't admit it. I saw that I was going directly down the road that would lead to me turning into them. Took some time. I fell off the wagon a few times. I implemented negative reinforcement so I would start associating drinking with having a bad time. I essentially used the placebo effect on myself into sobriety. I drink 3/4 of a regular bottle of whiskey per night, 18 packs of beer. I could count the nights I went to bed sober that year on one hand. I just remember spending every day looking forward to the end of the day so I could drink. Everything was X more hours until I can drink or get drunk. And escapism. Not to mention the rare euphoric experiences that would lead to more chasing the dragon. Like Matthew Perry said, You can really only say no to the first drink. And he was right. If I had even one, self-control was out the window. Now when I look at alcohol, I just remember the hangovers, the horrible feelings, how sick I felt all the time, and just how many damn calories it was too. Drank for a solid 8 to 10 years. Coming up on 3 years sober in March.
Implemented negative reinforcement, so I would start associating drinking with having a bad time. Explain?
Story 10. Cliché, but I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, and my family was sick of me too. Sober 12 years. Story 11. Aging. Also, when one day of recovery turns into 2 days, that's your sign. Edit. Hey, thanks for the upvotes. This really helps.
It's too draining now, and I can't just be in bed for 2 days sleeping. It gets old. I'm glad there are people who notice and stop.
Story 12. Gentle for anyone reading this who has relapsed. Relapse does not take away your success. You are doing your absolute best to stay on the wagon, and I am so proud of you. Whether it's 1 day sober or 20 plus years sober, you are doing amazing. You deserve to live a healthy and full life. You deserve to wake up every day with renewed strength, knowing you are stronger than the day before. You deserve to know you're loved. Warm. Keep going, my friend. You got this. I'm proud of you.
If you have a flat tire, you don't go back to where you started. You fix the flat and keep going.
This.
Drinking less than you had been is still better for you than if you hadn't made a change. Some people are able to quit and stay sober, but can't touch a drop without harming themselves or others. Others are able to cut way back, but can't try to cut it out entirely without relapsing really hard. In both cases, they've reduced their drinking and increased their quality of life.
I stopped for an entire year. 365 days. I celebrated with a few glasses of wine. Then I went hard every single day for 3 years straight after that sobriety celebration day. Every single day again, just like that. I've stopped again and haven't started for months now.
Story 13. Cirrhosis at age 37. I'm 40 now. Went from decompensated to compensated, and so far every single symptom has gone away. I'm able to put on weight again. Went from 250 pounds down to 150. Back up to 200.
Not me, but my husband. He was 39. When he was diagnosed, his MELD score was also 39. 40 is as bad as it gets. We went through the whole process to get ready for a transplant. He gained 80 pounds of fluid and then lost 115 pounds. He was skeletal and gray. It's been almost 4 years. He hasn't touched alcohol since, and his MELD score has been steady at 7 for at least the last year. His doctor is always so happy to see him.
Were you just in a constant daily state of drunkenness? Absolutely not. I was rarely what I would consider to be noticeably drunk before 7 p.m. Also, didn't this cost a fortune? A 24-pack of Bud was about $15 when I started. It wasn't too bad. Or a bottle of Platinum vodka was $14 to $15 for a 1.75-liter bottle. I liked vodka a lot. How did you afford something like this for 15 years at those ages, if you were also always drunk? I've been working from home in information technology for almost 20 years. I didn't drink until 3 p.m. I make an amount of money that sounds like bullshit, so I don't talk about it. Also, just to throw this out there, this will cause my death, and it will probably be before I'm 50. Heart failure will probably kill me before my liver, but it's because of my liver that I'll have heart failure.
It's the esophageal varices for me. I come from a family of alcoholics, and I just thought that's how we go. Until I actually saw what that looks like, I had no idea you could be a dandy functioning alcoholic, everybody's friend, outwardly healthy, and then one day a vein in your throat explodes because your liver is scarred and you die spitting blood all over your family. I'm so glad you quit, internet stranger friend.
Story 14. I blacked out at Christmas. Woke up in the drunk tank. I guess I tried to leave the house in the middle of the night, and the folks who tried to stop me ended up in rough shape. The constant shame I felt, and the thought that I could have seriously hurt somebody, made it so that the thought of booze turns my stomach. Story 15. Mainly, as my body is aging, I got to the point where even if I drank 1 or 2 drinks, which was small compared to most days, I'd wake up feeling terrible. It was starting to affect my work, and I have kids. I'm someone who's highly motivated once I get a feel for something. So I gave myself a goal not to drink for 4 days. and how good I felt eventually was such a high that I stopped. Do I still think about it? Absolutely. But then I remind myself how awful I felt and distract myself with something else.
Do I think about it still? Absolutely. But then I remind myself how shitty I felt and I distract myself with something else. It's funny. I smoked for about 10 years, quitting when I was in my mid-20s, so about 30 years ago. This is exactly how I feel about smoking. Every once in a while, I'll watch a movie and people are smoking or walk by someone smoking outside and catch just the right amount of a whiff for it to seem enticing. And I'll have a vague crave or ache for it. But then I immediately remember how awful I felt 75% of the time when I was smoking. From feeling like shit in the morning to getting coughs that lasted for months, to feeling out of breath much of the time, to that kind of nauseated feeling I would get when I had my first cigarette in a while, and so on. And the craving instantly goes away.
Distracting myself has been so important. Whether it be absolutely downing an ice-cold full-sugar soda, those bubbles and sugar really scratch the itch. And there's no way that one soda will amount to the number of vodka and soda calories I used to drink, or going and working on something that commands my full attention. Hell, even doom scrolling at times as long as I put a limit on it.
I miss a lot about drinking, mainly the ease of it. When I traveled, it was easy to go sit in a bar, relax over a few drinks, meet people. Now I have to actively find ways to fill my time. When I think about drinking, I also remember how bad it made me feel. I was wasting entire mornings feeling like crap after just 2 drinks.
Story 16. It showed signs of pancreatitis. My health started going down the shitter every time I drank.
That's the best time to stop. I got pancreatitis, and it's just the worst thing ever.
10 days in the intensive care unit that I don't remember from pancreatitis. It was not fun. Do not recommend.
I had pancreatitis. Never again. It was one of the worst things I've ever felt. Not a drop of alcohol in about 3.5 years now.
Story 17. 4 years. I couldn't figure out why I had so much anxiety. Turns out it was an electrolyte imbalance, and alcohol made it so much worse.
Regardless of electrolyte imbalance, alcohol is well documented to cause GABA rebound, which spikes anxiety like crazy.
I don't have a doctor's diagnosis or anything. It's mostly just by listening to my body and treating my symptoms. I noticed my anxiety was a lot worse after drinking alcohol. I would get really bad foot and leg cramps at night. I only ever get them after sweating a lot or drinking alcohol, even small amounts. I started taking a magnesium glycinate or citrate gummy every day, and the cramps stopped. I'm more relaxed, and I don't live with constant anxiety anymore. I feel like if you're really magnesium deficient and you take a supplement, you just know within half an hour that you needed it.
Not only an electrolyte imbalance, but look up GABA rebound. You know that anxiety feeling? The one where you're exhausted and just want to sleep, or even just lie down and rest, but you can't because every ounce of your being is miserable? Yeah, that's your GABA system being all messed up by the alcohol.
Story 18. I was a functioning alcoholic, and I just wanted to stop while I was ahead. Bonus. I've always been a gym rat, so that was my anti-drug. I worked on getting yoked and haven't looked back.
As a gym rat and drinker, how were your gains affected by quitting? I'm cutting down from 2 to 3 beers a night to only a few drinks a week. And I'm hoping to see some sort of second coming of the newbie gains, haha.
Story 19. The day the doctor looked me in the eye and said, "One more drink and you are going to die. You, sir, are in liver failure." I checked into detox that day and haven't turned back. I was going through a half-gallon of vodka or rum a day. It took 3 weeks and a few dozen seizures, but I am now sober for 5.5 years and celebrating my 5-year liver transplant on March 15th. Story 20. Liver transplant. I used alcohol as a sleep aid as well as an antidepressant. It was cheap and effective. Unfortunately, genetically, I wasn't built to handle the amount of drinking that I did. Life's hard and alcohol was cheap. My experience has taught me life's short and too precious. Stay away from that poison. Story 21. My doctor told me I would die within a year, so at 28, when I finally came clean about how much I drank. Up to 750 milliliters of vodka, 4 to 6 beers, a bottle of wine, and more some nights nightly at my peak. I was a 140-pound woman. I checked into detox the next day because I had started seeing a guy I really liked after leaving a codependent alcoholic relationship, and it felt like it was time. We have both been sober and together, now married, for over 8 years, and life is amazingly great. I'll never drink again.
Holy gods, 140 pounds and all that. Words literally cannot express it. I mean, everything you have achieved absolutely is impressive. It's the volume on such a petite person to start with. And we know women don't process alcohol as well as men. Laughable achievement. A superpower for us blokes. Did any doctor ever try to sign you up for a study? Again, zero disrespect intended. It's terrifying how much you drank. So well done.
None taken. I feel extremely fortunate to be in good health. Most people in my life that I tell this to are pretty blindsided if they didn't know already and typically don't ask how much I was drinking, which I understand. I regularly outdrank my 6'3", 230-pound farmer ex-boyfriend on a nightly basis, which is horrendous.
Story 22. The realization that my daughter was getting old enough that she would recognize the drinking. I thought I was in a different subreddit. Today I have been sober for 1 year. Story 23. A bag of shrooms and a week in the woods, contemplating all of the damage it is causing. I don't even crave it anymore. It's as if the universe reached its hand into my soul and ripped the addiction out of me.
There's actually a bunch of research that supports this. Back in the 1960s, before Nixon's war on drugs, the Spring Grove facility in Baltimore, Maryland, was researching LSD's effects on alcoholism, among other things. They found that just one massive dose of LSD, with counseling through the experience, was enough to get approximately 75% of people to completely drop alcohol, if I'm remembering correctly.
Exactly.
Tripping several times over a few weeks helped me realize how much time and resources I was wasting on bar tabs. Not to mention how much damage alcohol was doing to my body and how being drunk certainly wasn't adding anything positive to my personal relationships. Mushrooms made me want to be a better member of my community overall.
Same. I wasn't an alcoholic, but I definitely drank more than I should and always struggled with knowing when to stop once I started. The first time I did mushrooms, it was like they firmly but gently took me by the shoulders and were like, bruh, you gotta stop poisoning yourself with that crap. Something I always knew, but for the first time it just clicked and sank in as a complete shift. I went almost a year without any alcohol after that. I didn't even crave it a little bit, whereas before I felt like I needed it to relax. Now I drink maybe once a month and can stop after a couple. Huge difference if you knew the old me.
Story 24. I went from being a heavy drinker to a habitual drinker after partying lost its luster. I did a couple of dry months where I realized I'm mostly just thirsty, and carbonated water gives me the same quench without the hangover. I became a weekend drinker, then basically never drink now as my husband is sober too, which makes it much easier. Story 25. I learned that asbestos is a Group 1 carcinogen. The same goes for alcohol according to the World Health Organization.
Yeah, it shrinks your brain for up to 4 weeks after even having a few drinks. I stopped drinking because I got a Whoop, like an Apple Watch, and it tracks sleep quality. The nights I drank were laughable. It's so bad for you. I used this watch when I went to South America. Cocaine is pretty pure down there. Anyway, let's just say the nights I drank were way worse for my sleep and health score than the nights I did blow. I don't do it anymore, and I'm not saying it's good for you. Alcohol is a hard drug, to the point that some things we consider hard drugs are probably better for you than it. It's poison.
Story 26. Trying to date a drunk. Observing him in his natural habitat, a pretty village with several pubs. On the one hand, feeling sad, not a priority, and disappointed in him. On the other hand, feeling a bit too much like I fit right in there, trying to catch up by drinking more than I intended to, and wishing I could go there every day to enjoy the lovely sense of alcoholic community. I saw a drunk guy and me having a messy, complicated future, and realized I had casually drunk 3 decades away. And after he and I broke up, it prompted me to quit. I haven't had a drink for 2 months.
Haha, thanks. Those 3 decades were my 20s, 30s, and 40s, with the latter being the most out of control and miserable. Although my drinking pursuits tarnished many occasions between the ages of 16 and 51. I guess I had finally reached a point where I was done, and himself was the mirror I needed to see myself, as other people must see me. I've confused the hell out of a lot of people by suddenly not drinking anymore. But that's actually quite entertaining, now that I no longer give a shit what other people think about it. Chuckles.
3 decades, my lady. Chuckles, I promise that's meant as a shit joke, not anything else. Holy fuck, 3 decades. I'm very, very, very impressed.
Story 27. Facing the possibility of 4 years in prison was the final straw. I had tried unsuccessfully to quit several times before, but that was my rock bottom moment. Story 28. I had to decide between getting dog food or booze. I got the dog food, cried, and never put myself in that situation again. My dog gets all the food and treats. Story 29. I got tired of being itchy all the time because my liver was pissed off. Also, it didn't feel good anymore. Drinking just to feel normal sucks.
As someone with cirrhosis, the itching is the worst. It's something about bile salts coming up through your skin because your body isn't processing properly. It's an itch that's impossible to ignore.
What do you mean, itchy all the time? I used to drink a lot, and I've been sober for about 1 year and 9 months. I have eczema, but I also have something else that keeps coming up, and it doesn't seem like the doctors know what it is. I have itchy spots all over my body. It kind of looks like psoriasis or something. I'm wondering if it could be something else.
It was a whole body itch, but I mainly felt in my crotch area, hands, feet, and head. I didn't have welts or bumps. It just itched all the time.
Story 30. I used to get blackout drunk every weekend to handle my PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. I got really sick one day. I could barely shower. Worst hangover of my life. And it didn't make the fear and anger go away. I was left only with my thoughts in that moment. Facing them helped me stop running. Also, one time I was committed to killing myself. I was going to get super drunk, go to a club, and stop being embarrassed with myself. And if it wasn't fun, I was going to drunkenly commit suicide. I ended up getting drugged by a man. Some women in the bathroom helped me throw up by sticking their fingers down my throat. They got me a ride back to where I lived, which at the time was a church because I was homeless. They saved me, and their selflessness gave me hope. I stopped hurting myself and drinking so heavily around then. Things are still rough. Housing is still a nightmare. But I have a job, and I don't find myself sloshed in public like I used to anymore.
Good luck to you. I'm glad to hear you're making progress.
Story 31. Alcohol made me fat as hell. I used to be 220 pounds of lean muscle at like 9% body fat from ages 18 to 20. By 22, my face was so round it was insane. Friends I hadn't seen in years couldn't even recognize me. It was a huge wake-up call, so I cut the juice out and realized it makes me feel okay with being lazy and stagnant. Almost got my dream body back.
Happy I could scare you straight. I never drank fruity cocktails or sugary alcohol either. Regardless of what it is, liquor makes your face fat as fuck.
As a freshly 21-year-old who is in similar shape to what you were, your story has scared me enough not to become an alcoholic.
Story 32. My final 2-day-long hangover. I drank 2 bottles of champagne, 2/5 of Fireball, and a 24-ounce double India Pale Ale. I did it to make myself sick. That was over 4 years ago. I had been an extremely heavy drinker for over 30 years. Story 33. I almost drowned in the shower. Long story short, waking up in a tub of freezing blood. From cuts from the broken tequila bottle, piss and shit. I was out for about a day after a fall. That was a wake-up call. And my head hurt so bad that moving made me puke. But really, I think the day after that drove it home. I managed to crawl out of the tub, shivering my ass off. Puked because I moved and got under the towel and rug as a blanket. I woke up to my now starving dogs cuddled next to me and started crying. Breathes deeply. I had to do better. At least they shouldn't have to suffer because I'm a fuck-up. I managed to crawl to the kitchen and got them fed. The fact I just left shelf-stable groceries on the floor came in clutch. Being sober all the time sucks, and it's also fucking awesome. I'm not sure how to explain it. Story 34. Missed a big meeting at work because I was too sick and hungover. It was the first time I realized I was powerless over alcohol. It took a few months, but I had an epiphany on a lake in New Hampshire and felt joy and calm, like I was a child playing in the backyard with no cares in the world. I decided at that moment that was it. That's how I wanted to feel. 15 years later, still no booze. Story 35. One morning, I took a good long look at myself and realized that I had become my mother. The same exact excuses. I'm not an alcoholic because I only drink at night. And I'm not an alcoholic because I only drink high-end wine and liquor. It helps me sleep. Bullshit, it didn't. The same glassy eyes and bloated look. The same not giving a damn about anything in my life except planning my next drink. I got the shakes every day. I had become a walking caricature of my former self. That day, I poured every single bottle of alcohol down the sink, bought a scale and a measuring tape, and started exercising from home. Too ashamed to be seen at the gym looking like that. That included walking an hour every day and starting an eating plan. 6 months later, I joined a gym, got a part-time job, then started to plan my divorce slowly, meticulously, and most importantly, secretly. I won't go into details here, but there were several reasons why I was driven to drinking, even though I never liked the taste of alcohol. All related to my disastrous marriage. My last drink was December 23rd, 1999. I've been stone cold sober ever since. Now I'm happily divorced, retired, and I have a post-traumatic stress disorder service dog. I'm into hiking, exercising, healthy food, and I live in my RV, which enables me to travel and enjoy the country while I'm still young and healthy enough to do it. Story 36. My ex-wife's cirrhosis diagnosis. She made it 4 more years, and it was only wine. Story 37. I think there needs to be a realization that your brain chemistry has been so altered that your baseline sober mood is so bad, and you're simply drinking to get yourself feeling somewhat okay. Anytime I was sober during the week, I felt so fucking miserable. It's so easy to just think you're miserable, but the reality is that your brain has decreased production of certain chemicals, GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, because it gets blasted with them when you're drunk. Then, when I quit, I was so motivated and felt great that I finally took the leap for about 2 weeks. Once that energy wore off, I was so miserable again, and it took about 6 months to finally feel good again. Sometimes I would just lie on the floor, not wanting to do anything, but I knew that I just needed time for my brain to catch back up. So I just continued to lie there and did things when I could. 10 years sober as of a few weeks ago. Story 38. It was partway through the partying era, when parties became boring. I quit drinking not 100%, but about 80%. I still have a glass of wine with food or a beer watching sports with friends. The urge just comes randomly.
About the same. I could cut back on beer, though.
Story 39. GLP-1s reportedly have the added benefit of quieting the desire to eat or drink booze. Talk to your doctor. If you are overweight or pre-diabetic, it should be no problem getting a prescription.
That is what finally stopped it for me. I've been a heavy daily drinker since around 2003. On weeknights, I would have 4 or 5 heavy pour vodka sodas. On weekends, I would drink from lunch until bedtime. I never really experienced any serious problems with my drinking, besides some weight gain. After starting Zepbound, I gradually lost interest in alcohol. It wasn't a conscious decision. I just lost interest. I still have a couple of drinks at Friday or Saturday night dinner, but nothing like I used to.
Story 40. Getting old. Having a drink makes me a little tired. Drinking a lot just makes me grumpy and really tired now. Story 41. Just suddenly, out of nowhere, I became disinterested. I didn't officially quit, but I usually go months between drinks and rarely have more than 1 or 2. Story 42. The doctor put me on a GLP-1, and within 3 months I lost all the taste for it. I have a drink occasionally, but that's about it. This stuff has changed my life, and I'm down 110 pounds.
Came here to say this. I got it for some vanity weight loss, and it killed the alcohol craving entirely. I probably was never what the original poster considers a heavy drinker, but the relationship was not as healthy as I wanted it to be. Like you said, it's occasional now, where it used to be an effort to go multiple days in a row without drinking. I'm entirely in control of when I drink and how much. And that has stuck in the months since I stopped taking it, even if the weight came back. Chuckles. Also, I got a Garmin watch, and it became very clear how much it messed with my sleep. With 2 toddlers, the trade-off became very much not worth it.
Story 43. Which time? This last time, 18 months ago, it was having to use Google Maps to find my house. Story 44. My wife said I was making her life miserable with my drinking. She didn't demand I quit. She just said she's not doing it anymore. I told her I would quit. I didn't get married to her to make her miserable. I promised her I would never drink again and put effort into her happiness, which really made my life happier. I quit drinking cold turkey. It's been 14 years.
I did something similar. I told my husband I just want to slow down and eventually stop drinking. Now he slowed down along with me. We both want to live longer for our kids and each other.
Story 45. A hit and run. Also, a time when I got blasted and was stopped by the police. I should have gotten a DUI, but I got a warning instead. I've been sober for over a decade. Story 46. One evening, I had just enough money either to buy beer or to send for my little son's lunch the next day. Realizing that I was contemplating letting him go without lunch so I could drink floored me. I'd also developed panic disorder and couldn't deal with that while drunk. I've been sober for 34 years as of last September, and it has been great. Story 47. When I woke up on yet another birthday weekend with the worst hangover of my life, I knew I didn't want to do another birthday hungover again. It's been 5 years now off the sauce, and it was easily the wisest decision I have ever made. Story 48. Woke up in a cardiac intensive care unit bed. Thought I had been there a day. It was 9 days. 0 memory. Pictures of the kids saying goodbye were enough for me to put the bottle down. It's been 7 years this week. Story 49. With age, rapid recovery was no longer possible. If I were to drink like I used to, it would take 3 days to recover now. In my younger days, I could drink all night, get just an hour of sleep, and work an 8 to 10 hour day with lots of coffee. Story 50, the trick for me, and this is what helped me quit cigarettes too, is just to focus on the first week or even just the current day. If I let my mind worry about quitting for the rest of my life, I get overwhelmed. Get a week behind you, and the momentum can carry you.
I wish this was stressed and explained more. Drop the woo-woo Alcoholics Anonymous stuff and be practical. Well done, sincerely. I think you clicked on the best cure, in my humble, totally uneducated opinion. And I mean cure, not as in cure, you know? I can't agree with you twice over, eh? Chuckles.
Story 51. I've been taking long breaks from it. Every once in a while, I'll go have a drink, get bored, chat up some regular for a minute, and then leave. It's just very uninspiring. I don't like to drink at home that much either. Story 52. I got tired of quitting. I tried over 100 times to quit, only to fail within a couple of days most times. I finally became completely exhausted with all of it. It's hard to describe, but I felt a deep, profound, I'm done, somewhere inside my brain. Sober since November 7th, 2020. Story 53. Medications. I wanted to quit for years, but was ultimately never successful. It was also an insane struggle to abstain. Then I saw a psychiatrist who put me on gabapentin. After a few weeks, my urge to drink just disappeared. Relieved. I've been completely dry since May of 2025. Story 54. I felt like shit. Every morning I would wake up fuzzy-headed, headachy, with a dry mouth, feeling horrible, and think, I can't keep doing this. I would swear to stop or moderate, but I'd be right back at it the next night. I got help from tiredofthinkingaboutdrinking.com. Saved my life. Definitely recommend it as a resource. 90% of the services through the site are free. Story 55. Took a family trip to the beach. Got home and was looking at pictures, and one of my kids said, "Look how fat Dad is." Cut my drinking down to Fridays and Saturdays only, started exercising 5 days per week, and eating healthy. Dropped 40 pounds in 4 months. Working on dropping another 40. Story 56. After a heavy drinking New Year's Eve, I made a deal with my wife that if I didn't drink for a year, I'd get a new Harley. 11 months later, my wife was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. I stayed sober through the entire journey until she passed, 4 years and 7 months later. She needed me, and I made it a point to be there for every appointment. When she passed, I knew I had to be there for our kids. Here I am, 15 years later and still sober. Story 57. For me, it clicked when I woke up and realized my hangover was more expensive than my entire grocery bill for the week. I thought, wait, I could be saving money and still have fun. Plus, my liver sent me a strongly worded letter, and I figured I'd better listen. Now, my wild nights involve ordering pizza and watching Netflix in my pajamas. Much cheaper, and the only thing I'm dehydrated from is bad TV choices. Story 58. My wife told me I wasn't able to quit drinking without professional help. I've been sober for over 2 years and did it entirely on my own. Spite is pure motivation. Story 59. I was sick of feeling like shit every day and being unhealthy. I needed to lose weight as well. Story 60. Drinking alone was not as fun as drinking with others. I slowly stopped drinking at home and then almost altogether. Then a few years later I tried weed, and now I hardly drink at all. One vice for another, but life is vastly better. Story 61. I'm an older dad. I was 39 when my first child was born. I drank a lot in my 20s. It was party time for me. In my 30s, I drank a lot, but it started to get sad. I was highly functional, but still an alcoholic. I changed jobs, but that actually made it worse. My daughter was born, but I was busy with work. Long hours, so I wasn't around much. I started drinking on the long drive home, so I was half drunk by the time I got home. My wife would just see me drink a 6-pack of India Pale Alesh and not be too concerned. But I had already had 6 more in the car. If it was a night out, which was actually rare, I'd just get blackout drunk and usually do something embarrassing. But I dealt with all of that. What really finally did it was a week-long vacation with my wife and 2-year-old daughter in San Diego. We went to the museums, the parks, the zoo, SeaWorld. We stayed at really nice Airbnbs. She was just at the stage where she could say hi. She said hi to every animal at the zoo. Every night after we put her down, I'd drink 6 beers or more, and some nights I had a few before we put her down. It was sort of a hassle to get the beer, and I didn't want to get it all at once because it would seem like a lot. We got home, and it was Sunday. I was tired and hungover, but I always drank beer and watched the San Francisco 49ers. I cracked 1 beer at 10 a.m. and was just like, what the heck am I doing? Why did I drink every day on vacation with my daughter and beautiful wife? I wasn't stressing. It didn't make it a better time. It made it worse. It was in the way of being with my family. I didn't take a sip of that beer. I just poured it down the drain after the game. That was 850 days ago, and I haven't had or wanted a drink since. The first year was kind of blah as I learned how to live again, but ever since then, life has been getting better and better every day. It's incredible. Story 62. I got on antidepressants and got smashed because I was curious. Turns out it sucks, and I've chosen the antidepressants over alcohol. Today is day 9. Story 63. A nagging cramp in my right side that would only stop when I laid off the booze. Story 64. Getting older, it just wasn't fun anymore. It ruins my cholesterol and just makes me feel like shit most of the time. Story 65. I had been considering quitting for a while, and I'd told a bunch of my friends that I planned to stop drinking after my birthday. Well, a couple of days after my birthday, I walked into the bar and ordered a beer. The bartender, who was a good friend of mine, very casually said, "Huh, I thought you quit." For some reason, that got under my skin so much that a couple of weeks later, I finally quit. Coming up on 6 years sober. Story 66. I lost my job, my cars, and my apartment. I had to move back in with Mom. Now I'm trying to build back up. Valentine's Day marked 2 years sober for me. I'm 36. Story 67. Beyond how it basically ruined my life through important relationships that I destroyed, what really made it click was my health and appearance. Drinking was really taking a toll on how I felt physically, as well as how I looked. I literally felt unhealthy. I was gaining a ton of weight, and my skin looked like shit. It made it clear that I needed to stop when I took a hard look at how shitty I felt and looked, relative to how much better I could feel and look. That last part, about appearance, might sound vain, but it became obvious to me after I destroyed one of the relationships that I mentioned before, my longtime girlfriend. It made it difficult to meet new people in a romantic sense because alcohol was making me look like a degenerate slob. Story 68. After years of poor decisions when drunk, I encountered what I decided was my final one. I got blackout drunk, barely remember a thing other than a couple of very brief flashes, and ended up pregnant by a friend's married brother. Was I taken advantage of? Absolutely, 100%. But after an abortion, I decided I could never put myself in that state ever again to have to face such a horrible, life-changing decision. Story 69. After going to inpatient treatment, starting a divorce, being broke, in the process of losing my career, and being completely alone, I still continued to drink. I realized I had nothing or no one left to help me get out of the mess I created of my life. The last time I drank, it was by myself on my birthday, when I also started a 3-day weekend. For 3 days, I was blackout drunk and had no recollection of what happened. I realized, coming out of that haze, that if I didn't do something, I was probably going to die, and up to that point, I had been wishing I would die. I had felt more alone at that point than any other time in my life. I didn't want to feel alone anymore. I went to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings every day just to be around people. I didn't care about the steps or giving yourself over to some higher power. I just wanted to be around other people who knew what I was going through. I started reading again, a lot. Books that would help me do some soul searching. I started working out again and getting in shape. The rest is history. I'm a completely different person now after nearly 13 years. Story 70. There was a lady, 15 years older than me, drunk at a neighborhood pool party. She was making a fool of herself, hitting on husbands and trying to kiss several of them, telling dirty jokes that didn't really land, but people laughed out of politeness. I had a crystal clear moment, almost like a voice in my head, when I realized that I was witnessing my own future if I didn't quit alcohol. That was September 18th, 2021, and I haven't had a drink since. Story 71. I hated how I felt. I also stopped drinking for a year, then got hammered on vacation and said some really stupid shit to someone I loved. I was never someone who got blackout drunk. I've never forgotten what I said or did while drinking, so I always felt like I had control of myself. That night, I don't remember anything, and I will never be out of control again. Story 72. I thought I was too drunk to get to the shop, but I started getting shakes. I had a seizure, woke up having pissed myself, and bleeding from my tongue and head. Story 73. Pancreatic cancer made the decision to quit drinking pretty easy. After 1 year of intense chemotherapy and the Whipple procedure, I just can't pour cancer-causing liquids down my system anymore. I've been cancer-free for over a year and don't miss drinking at all. Story 74. I turned yellow with jaundice because my liver was failing, and I would die if I had another drink. I went to rehab just to buy myself some time while my liver healed. I went to a 90-day sober living program to buy more time for my liver to heal. And somewhere along the way, I realized that I was feeling good, and I had been so miserable before, so there was no reason to ever want to go back. I just celebrated 4 years. Story 75. Partied really hard one night. I don't remember driving home. The next day, I found out there was a massive driving under the influence checkpoint that I must have missed by just 1 block on my way home. I would have ruined my life, and who knows how many others. I took that as the universe telling me to get my shit together. Story 76. Nothing ever clicked. It just sort of faded away. I was a heavy binge drinker in my teens and 20s. I was one of those idiots whose entire personality revolved around getting wasted. In my 30s, all my friends were having kids, and I got more and more wrapped up in work. Getting drunk 2 to 3 times a week became 2 to 3 times a month, then once every 2 to 3 months, then I just lost interest in it entirely. Now in my 50s, I've had maybe 5 or 6 drinks in the last year. If I'm being brutally honest with myself, I was always strictly a social drinker, and I'm no longer social. Story 77. Divorce. Not performing to my expectations at work. 2 alcohol withdrawal seizures from going cold turkey, and the doctor telling me, one of these will kill you, you know. Got structured help, did it correctly. 10 plus years sober now. Story 78. I got a broken motorcycle for $200 and broke more than $200 worth of stuff on it, trying to fix it drunk. Chuckles. I said to myself, if you can't even fix it drunk, what makes you think you're gonna ride it drunk? That was March 27th, 2008. I went to 90 Alcoholics Anonymous meetings in 90 days on my own. I kept going to live music because the world isn't gonna stop drinking just because I have. Still sober and still loving life. Story 79. When I went to a party and my friends had an open bar, but they bought me my own fifth of Maker's Mark 46 because that's how much you drink. I don't know why, but for some reason, right then I decided I didn't want to be known as a drunk. I quit cold turkey. Never opened that bottle. It still sits on a table in my house as a reminder. Now I've been sober for 9 years, 2 months, and 17 days. Story 80. I sat down and did the math. I was paying a premium monthly subscription to poison myself, ruin my sleep, and wake up feeling like I'd been in a street fight with a bag of hammers. I realized I was paying good money for a bad time. Unsubscribed. Story 81. My mom said she was concerned about me, and it made me realize that I couldn't remember a single weekend in months. Story 82. Rounds and rounds of compromises. I'll only drink socially. I'll only drink on weekends. I'll only drink once a week, and so on. At some point, I decided to drink once per month, but I could bank that day and use it later if I wanted. I was sober for about 2 months, and it started clicking that 1. I don't crave a drink. I crave getting shit-faced. 2. Most of my insecurities and goals would improve if I was sober. And so I just stopped. Almost 2 years sober now. Story 83. Nothing. My parents and family locked me in the house for months with no money and no way to get out and get drinks, so yeah. Story 84. I wanted to get pregnant. I knew I wouldn't drink while pregnant, but I didn't want it to feel like such a big shock. So I significantly cut back on alcohol before trying to conceive. I'm really pleased to say that years later, I never went back to overconsuming alcohol, even when I could drink. The changes I made have stuck. Story 85. I went out for a drink with my workmates. Hospital. I have a huge, visible, painful scar on my hand, and I have no clue how I caused it. That's my reminder. Story 86. When my then 2-year-old knew to grab me a new beer when I was out, among other destructive things I noticed in her. Also, my marriage was nearly over. I decided enough is enough. April 16th will be 4 years. Story 87. I don't think I was the heaviest drinker, but for sure I drank more than most. I remember slowing down 1 year. The next year, I told myself, okay, just do it to enjoy. I did pretty well. I just had a drink at social events, but even if I had 1 drink, I noticed I felt sluggish the next day. Then I told myself, on my next birthday, I'm going to stop. My birthday was 2 months away. I didn't drink until then, had 1 beer on my birthday, and never took a sip again. Story 88. It was a combination of weight gain, weekends spent hungover, and having a 4-year-old son who wants to do things with his daddy, not watch him sleep. I still drink every few months or so, or on special occasions and events, but my relationship with the bottle is much better. I replaced bad habits with good ones, and things are much better all around, losing 20 kilograms in the process. Story 89. I took a break once or twice, like 7 to 10 days without booze, which felt like a long stretch, and I just started craving sobriety. Story 90. I tried a dry month challenge. I didn't make it the full month, but when I jumped back on the wagon, it wasn't fun. I used to love being drunk, but I guess I just needed a break to see that it's not necessary for me to enjoy life. Now I'm just a social drinker who doesn't really get too drunk. Story 91. Reading these gives me hope. My wife is in the thick of it. She went to rehab during the pandemic, relapsed pretty quickly before switching to weed for a bit, and then right back to alcohol. I thought things would change after having 2 young babies, twins. Being pregnant for 9 months was supposed to kickstart it. But the late nights staying up drinking alone. I quit drinking when she went to rehab, and the late mornings, often from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. are getting harder. She has not been open to outside help or a set plan to wean off and go alcohol-free. Any advice from former heavy drinkers or partners?
It's hard. I just posted about ending my relationship because of her drinking problem. You are stronger than I am. This fight comes in waves. It won't all stop at once. You have to have her want to quit herself. It's the old adage of, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. If she is anything like my ex, she emotionally relies on alcohol like a crutch. I suggest asking her face-to-face one day if she sees her drinking as a problem. If no, then why not? And if she wants to take those steps to quit fully. Also, tell her how it doesn't affect her. Tell her how it affects you. After that, she will either get defensive about her habits, bad sign in my opinion, or she will be open and remorseful. Have her rely on you, not the bottle when things get tough or she gets those urges to drink. Wish you the best.